Hello, these are the instructions for your third essay and your individual presentation that goes with that paper. We are going to call this paper the would-be paper, and if you go to Blackboard, you will see that I have uploaded a set of instructions that looks like this. It describes every step that you need to take in order to do this project, and it also acknowledges the two ways in which you are going to be graded. One of them for the would-be paper, the grade will go on the label third paper, and an individual presentation, which is one of the presentations that we have left in this class. In order to make it a little bit different, we're going to be dealing with recording ourselves in this class. So this would-be paper, let me explain to you what it does. What I want you to think about is in class we have been analyzing, as part of our cluster, we have been analyzing the idea of monster, right? That's what you have at the top of the slide here. Where it comes from, how old you can start thinking, like how old this word is, how it gets to English, but also sort of the images that we associate with the monster, right? Like we have the Minotaur, we've talked about this guy before in our class. You mentioned Frankenstein or Frankenstein's monster to be correct. Um, but we also have some human beings that we consider to be monstrous. So if you read the instructions of this paper, you're going to see that we use the word monster, monstrous, monstrosity to talk about something that is abnormal, whether it is a fending off of these huge characteristics that make someone look entirely like they're a different species, or some moral characteristic that is more internal, less revealed through actual outward imagery, but that might be conducive to things like war or genocide. In our class, we have talked about theories of ethics, right? And one of the things that ethics does is that it actually tries to fend us off or make us stay away from the idea of becoming a monster, of using others for our own purposes, or of being too attached to emotions or nutrition and engorging on that part but not paying attention to everything else that makes us who we are. So for this paper, what I want you to think about is the way in which you would combine the learning that you have about what we address when we say monster and how ethical theories pull us away and guide us into a path through which we can discover what it means to be a human being. So, as in every essay, you are going to talk about an introduction, you're going to have support for your thesis, but what I want you guys to be totally clear before you start working on this is that what you're submitting is called an annotated paper. That means that you do not have to present the whole argument in this part. You are only going to give us the ideas that you have and the resources. Think about it as if you were outlining the paper and using resources that you would bring in order to support the ideas that you have. What I want you to make sure you address is that your paper is going to combine the ideas presented by at least two philosophers we have studied in class, and these ideas should be the ones that you feel focus more, concentrate on, or guide us towards a better understanding of what it means to be a human being and why ethics is important for this kind of creature. If you noticed in class, we didn't talk about the ethics of being a lion or the ethics of being like some sort of predatory animal. We only talk about ethics when it comes to rational human beings, because ethics is supposed to, as Aristotle said, is supposed to guide us into the formation and formulation of better and stronger communities. So think about what you have learned in this class and which philosophers or which philosophical concepts you think are very key, very important to talk about what it means to be a human being. So in this annotated paper, in this would-be paper, as I mentioned before, you need an introduction. You need something that's going to be exciting, something that's going to pull the attention of people, and for your would-be paper, you don't necessarily have to outline or write down all the ideas that you would use in the introduction, but maybe you want to explore a figure, maybe you want to start with an image or a video or something that would be conducive to having your readers' interest being piqued. Um, you can obviously write it down, but since I want you to talk about it and record yourself as I am recording myself, maybe it's not the best idea to have everything written down. So you're going to have your introduction. We've talked about this in class. They have to be exciting, they have to be seductive, they have to be interesting so that people would actually want to read your paper. Once you have your introduction, obviously you are going to create a thesis statement. And the thesis statement is sort of like that guiding path that you're going to establish for your paper and what it is that you are establishing. Where is the X? What is the X in your paper, right? So a clear thesis statement in this case would address the idea that you have of human being and also the philosophers or philosophical concepts that you think better represent this point of view. I need you to describe what you understand a human being is. What are the characteristics? What are the kind of actions? What are the sort of associations that we have that make us human beings? Is it really that different from, let's say, the way in which whales form communities or the way in which lions have prey? Um, this is something that through your study of ethics, you should have started to think about what are the characteristics that philosophers are putting out there that make us into a different species and whether or not you agree with them or how would you combine them. After you have stated what you think a human being is or how you define a human being, obviously you need philosophical support. And any of these philosophers can help you do that. We have Jesse Prince, Bell Hooks, Martha Nussbaum, John Stuart Mill, Aristotle, Kant, Bentham, and Sartre. So you can choose two of these philosophers. You can decide which ones of them you're going to use. You could decide to use more than two, but since you are going to have three quotes per philosopher, maybe using more than two is not the best idea for this paper. For the support that you are going to draw from these philosophers, you are asked to use, as I mentioned before, three different quotes. These quotes obviously should come from a material that we read in classes, the different texts that we have read, that you have worked on, that we have discussed, and that you have used for some of your papers. In this case, I'm just using quotes by Kant that I really like in order to show you that an important part of this annotated paper is that you use the MLA format when you are quoting. So make sure that you have all the information that you need, the text where you find this quote, the page where that quote is found, so that you can establish that on your PowerPoint or your Prezi presentation as part of the would-be paper. Although I'm asking you to explain why the quote supports your ideas, you don't have to write down that explanation because again you can have the quote on your PowerPoint or Prezi and then just do a conversational explanation of the thesis, sort of what I'm doing right now with the PowerPoint. And obviously the last part that you're going to have in your paper or would-be paper is the conclusion. What have you demonstrated through this paper? Once you have done all of this and recorded your voice over the PowerPoint, you are going to upload the presentation onto YouTube, and from YouTube you will copy the link onto Blackboard. We'll talk about how to use Screencast-O-Matic in class, but I will also provide you with another instructional video as to how this is done. Okay? Let me know if you have any questions.